There is a kind of arrogance that comes with being the world's superpower like the USA, right? We've talked about American exceptionalism on this channel so much. You grow accustomed to thinking in terms of control, protection, and dominance, so much so that you can walk right past the one fact that could bring it all crashing down. When I first traced these lines on an actual map, I didn't feel clever, I felt a cold strategic awe, because the truth is America's power doesn't rest on its military only, or even its economy alone, but on something even more vulnerable, the patience of a quieter neighbor. Today I'm going to show you 5 overlooked realities that quietly put America's entire future in Canada's hands. The kind of realities that most American policymakers can't change and most Canadians haven't really thought about yet. We'll look at how water, energy, Arctic access, and critical minerals all flow sometimes literally through Canadian territory, creating a one-sided dependency nobody wants to admit in the USA, and why the next century of North American power may not be decided in Washington or Ottawa, but in the ice and granite that separate them. So let me ask you honestly, does it surprise you that the world's most powerful country could be held hostage by geography? If you're Canadian, do you feel any safer or just a little bit more nervous knowing how much of America's fate runs through your own backyard? Let me know below. I'm really curious to hear whether you see this as an opportunity, a threat, or just another fact of living north of the border. Before we dive in, a very quick note. My book, Awake, The Practice of Critical Thinking in an Age of Soft Lies, is now out. It's not just about critical thinking. It's about reclaiming clarity in a world full of noise. If you're a builder, a leader, or just somebody who wants to think more clearly under pressure, this one is definitely for you, my friends. I've also now included a 24-minute companion podcast that walks through key concepts in depth. So if you prefer to listen and reflect, that's now included as well. All the links are below, including a launch video that goes deeper into the themes themselves. There is also subscriber discounts, so hit that subscribe button and check it out when you're ready. One more tiny thing before we dive in. I'm building a course on AI fluency as I am a computer scientist with a PhD in the field for people who want to understand the technology shaping the next decade. If you want to help shape what the course becomes, I've made a very short 8 questions quiz. It's literally going to take you like 2 minutes, and your answers will directly decide the content that I build next. The links to everything are below. I'd really love your input. Anyway, let's dig in. It all starts where all survival starts, with water. If you look at a map of North America, it's almost comical how the lifeblood of American industry and daily life is threaded through a Canadian needle. The Great Lakes hold not just 20% of the world's fresh water, but the fates of 40 million Americans. They drink it, wash with it, build cities atop its promise. But what's quietly unsettling is this, that every gallon that enters or leaves these lakes is at some point subject to Canada's geography. It's not just theory. The St. Lawrence Seaway, Quebec's river, not America's, funnels this water to the Atlantic. The Niagara and Detroit rivers cross a border that on paper seems friendly, but imagine for a moment not a war, not even a diplomatic rupture, although we've had quite a bit of that recently, just a protracted disagreement. Canada, in theory, could choke off water flows, divert or slow them, and trigger crisis in American cities like Chicago, Detroit, Buffalo without firing a single shot, God forbid. It's more than just taps and toilets, right? This water powers hydroelectric plants, keeps the steel flowing from Minnesota to Pennsylvania, and anchors the whole of Midwest's farming heartland. The Pentagon's planners know this, they definitely do. They know geography can't be negotiated with or bombed into submission. You can't just invade a continent-sized wilderness just to secure water rights, right? Now, when people talk about holding a country hostage, it's usually metaphorical, but here it can actually be literal. And almost nobody is prepared for the day Canada realizes what it's actually sitting on. Let's talk about the next one. America's next vulnerability is built into the landscape itself. Canada supplies about 20% of America's electricity, enough to light up California every single night, sourced largely from the hydroelectric behemoths of Quebec and British Columbia. The lines that carry this power run through isolated, undefended crossings, a handful of switching stations, a few remote cables, and a map drawn by glaciers and politics centuries ago. Imagine what it means in practice to flip a few switches and black out the Northeast United States. Imagine what it means strategically that the big brother can't really do a thing about it. But the real stranglehold comes underground. Canada is not just America's power grid. It's America's gas station. More oil flows south from Alberta to Texas, Illinois, and Oklahoma than from anywhere else on Earth. The pipelines that make this possible aren't easily rerouted at all. They're forced south by the Canadian Shield, a prehistoric wall of granite that makes east-west infrastructure almost impossible. And instead, all those pipes, all that wealth, flows into the American market because geography demands it this way, my friends. And the risk is not only technical, it's also existential. As America leans harder into renewables, it finds itself more, not less, tied to Canadian hydro. Every single year, this dependency tightens even more. What would even happen if Canada decided, on a point of principle or profit maybe, to cut off those flows? The lights would go out, gas prices would double, the economy would shatter, and no military could actually fix it. If you want to understand the future of North American power, follow the current. It doesn't care about treaties or friendships or who's president. It just flows downhill. That's it. But water and energy are only the beginning. The real 21st century battlefield is melting into view, and that is the Arctic. It's easy to dismiss the polar north as a blank space on the map, with cute polar bears, I guess. But as climate change cracks open the ice, something astonishing is slowly happening. New trade routes are emerging, routes that could one day link Asia to Europe faster than the Suez or Panama canals ever could. We actually have a whole other video on this one if you're interested. Check it out. And all of it, every single navigable channel, runs through Canada's claims. The Northwest Passage is not just a historical curiosity, it is a future artery of global commerce, and it passes through waters that Canada can close or open at will. If Canada ever chose to restrict American or allied access, it could cut the US out of trillions in future trade. But the stakes run even deeper. Underneath the ice are vast reserves of oil and gas, an estimated 13% of the world's undiscovered oil, 30% of its natural gas. And the landward access to all of these routes is almost all controlled by Canada. As this ice retreats, so does Canadian leverage. Geography turns the tables, right? America is forced to ask permission to reach the resources and routes that will define the next age of global competition. And meanwhile, Russia is fortifying its Arctic, China is buying its way in, and America is left hoping that Canada stays friendly. I'm not quite so sure about that anymore. It's a strategic dependency that the Pentagon can't really fix, and one that most people still don't really see coming. Let's talk about the next point. If the 20th century ran on oil, the 21st will definitely run on lithium, cobalt, nickel, and other rare earth minerals. These are the ingredients of batteries, solar panels, and wind turbines, my friends. Canada holds them in astonishing quantities, locked away in the vast remote north. This is where the dependency becomes quietly terrifying. As America rushes to decarbonize and electrify, it is discovering just how few options it actually has for sourcing these minerals. And here again, geography is destiny. The richest deposits are often closer to Asian shipping lanes than to American factories. China sees this. It is buying up Canadian mining companies, investing in the infrastructure that will carry these minerals east rather than south. If Canada ever chose to redirect the flow, America would find itself outbid, outmaneuvered, and unable to force compliance. There is no simple fix, no military option, no substitute resource. The world's green transition is being built atop Canadian granite, and every day the leverage grows. To think clearly here, you have to hold two conflicting ideas at once: technological progress and strategic vulnerability bound together by geography. You know, all of these dependencies would be manageable, maybe even for a superpower, if it could simply reach out and take what it actually needs. But here, geography gives its final verdict. The US-Canada border is about 5,500 miles long, running through forests, lakes, and ice fields that make the mountains of Afghanistan look like a highway rest stop. No army could actually cross it all. No drone swarm could police it. The result is a line so open, so unguarded, that the only thing holding it together is trust and the sheer impossibility of doing anything else, right? The border is a monument to the limits of force. It is the world's longest undefended frontier, and it reminds us that in the final calculation, survival is always more about relationship than raw power, something that a certain president really should remember sometime soon, hopefully. In the end, the map tells a story that politicians rarely do. America may be the world's muscle, but its pulse depends on the veins running north. It's a dependency so quiet, so foundational, that almost nobody talks about it until it's too late. The lesson here is not paranoia, it's perspective, my friends. Power is not just about what you can take, it's also about what you can lose without ever realizing that it was never yours. So the next time somebody says America protects Canada, remember that sometimes the strongest position is the one hidden in plain sight. In the long game of history, my friends, the one who holds the key to survival is rarely the one shouting about it. If this kind of thinking resonates with you, if you want to understand how to navigate the noise, the hype, and the complexity of our current moment, I think you'd really enjoy my book. It's called Awake, the Practice of Critical Thinking in an Age of Self-Lies. And it's written for people who want to stay grounded, think clearly, and live in reality, even when the world makes that feel definitely impossible sometimes. I've also included a 24-minute podcast episode where we unpack some of the ideas behind Awake in a more relaxed, conversational way. Perfect if you prefer to listen while walking, driving, or just taking a break from screens. You find the links down below. I'd love to know what you think of it. As always, thank you so much for being here and for thinking through these questions with me. If you like the conversation, consider subscribing for more, and don't forget to check out these other videos that I've linked here as a natural next step for a deeper dive.